Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi wa ba'd. We praise Allah, the highly glorified, and we ask His peace and His blessings upon His last Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and of course the family members who believed and his companions, and upon all those who worship Allah with righteousness unto the very last day of this world. As far as Islam in Jamaica is concerned, it's a very wide topic, but according to the historians of repute, Islam first reached the shores of Jamaica a very long time ago, approximately around 1400s, prior to the time of the chattel slavery. Muslim explorers had come from West Africa, as well as West Central Africa and North Africa, as far back as the 1300s. But between 1492 to 1510, Muslims had come to Jamaica with the Muslim mariners that were in Andalusia, which is Spain and Portugal, as well as those from West Africa. Later on, during the time of chattel slavery, Islam was still alive amongst the people of African descent, but it waned during that period because of the harsh conditions of chattel slavery. As far as the revival is concerned, we can make connections to those who maintained their faith throughout that period between 1510 to 1838, and those who had an awareness or an idea that that was the religion of choice of their foreparents. Another set of individuals that came to Jamaica on the 10th of May 1845 from India, they came there with the understanding that, amongst them that is, some were Muslims, some were Hindus, some may have been Sikhs. So between 1845 to 1917, at least 20% of those who had come from the Indo-Pakistani subcontinent were Muslims. In the late 1950s, you had individuals who had reached the shores of the United States and Canada and England, and they were trying to assert their identity. Some of the individuals who left Jamaica to these places in North America felt that Islam was the correct way of life. In the late 1960s to the early 1970s, there was a group that existed in Jamaica, and we can now look back and say that it was truly a pseudo-Islamic group, although the individuals thought they were genuinely Muslims, and it was a group called the Nation of Islam. But upon the death of Elijah Muhammad at the Mercy Hospital on the 21st day of February 1975 in Chicago, those individuals made another transition with his son Imam Wahdin Muhammad and his representative here in Kingston, Jamaica. So at that time, between 1975 to 1982, while this transition took place, the masjids, according to record, that were here in Jamaica were the masjids. Number one, Masjid Hussein at 3 Miles River in Westmoreland, and Masjid Ar-Rahman that was built in the summer of 1957 by Mr. Muhammad Khan, and the brothers who existed, who were the real transition makers, at least the majority of them, at 128 King Street, and then on to Kensington Crescent. After a time, Jamaican Muslims experienced a growth with the coming of Dr. Abdullah Hakim Quick, a graduate of the Islamic University of Medina, where, based on the records and the information that we have received, he pointed them on a path that they looked at Adillah, they looked at the sources, the authentic sources, and they were exposed to the 4 major schools of thoughts. After he left, say approximately after the time of Hurricane Gilbert or a little before, the community moved from Kensington Crescent to 24 Camp Road. Since that time, we now have a total of 13 masajid, One, you have Masjid al-Nur in Port Maria, headed by Imam Mustafa. We have, of course, here at 24 Camp Road, the head of Islamic Education and Dawah, who is the Murshid al-Am, called Sheikh Musa Tijani, who is from Nigeria and graduated from the Islamic University of Medina in 1986. The Amir of the Islamic Council of Jamaica, which had its genesis in 1982 whilst Dr. Abdul Hakim Quick was here, is a man by the name of Mustafa Muhammad. In Ocharias, it's called Masjid al-Hikmah, which on any given Friday you will see approximately 20 brothers and maybe 2 or 3 sisters there. In Montego Bay, you'll find that at the corner of Makati Street and Coronaldi, you'll have the Islamic Education and Dawah Center that is headed by a wonderful brother by the name of Ibrahim, and the Khatib there is well versed in Arabic and had studied Islamic studies at the Islamic University of Medina by the name of Harun. In Mandeville, there is a masjid there, if I'm not mistaken. It's called Masjid al-Haq, and it's at the corner of I believe it is, I'm not sure, I cannot recall at this time, but it is in Mandeville, and it's right next to the New Line Motors branch in Mandeville. In St. Elizabeth, the masjid there is called Masjid At-Taqwa, which is in Newell, St. Elizabeth. There is a masjid in Riversdale in the parish of St. Catherine, but at times that masjid is, the members may not be active, so they will go to other masajid for prayers because there are a lack of khatibs or lack of du'at going there. In St. Mary also, there is a masjid called Masjid As-Sabur. The imam there is Yusuf Abdul Wahab, a man who studies very hard. In fact, he's one of the few that I've seen recite well with the correct understanding foundations of the Sunnah by Imam Ahmad rahimahullah by heart, and teach the people from the sources, where he stresses many times over himself there and in Montego Bay, as well as Masjid as-Sajda, the latest of the masjids in St. Thomas, which is on the eastern side of the island. The essence of the hadith from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, khayru nasi qarni thumma ladina yalunahum thumma ladina yalunahum, which means, according to the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, the best of mankind, that means the best of mankind ever, is my generation, and then the one that comes after, and then the one that comes after, which means the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam and his companions radiyallahu anhum ajma'een are the best of the generations that has ever come to this earth, and it will be that way until the end of this world. The second best generation is known as the Tabi'een, the followers of that best generation, and then the generation that came after the Tabi'een, the successors of the successors. As we move on with the masajid here, there was a masjid at Portland Cottage, Clarendon, as well as one in Old Harbor, but those are now defunct, in that they are not in operational functioning anymore. There also is Negril. It's called Masjid Al-Ihsan. It is at the westernmost part of the island. Actually, it's on the beach. It's right on the beach. As far as masjids are concerned, you have Masjid As-Salam at Red Hills Road, at 1 Leicester Avenue. There is. Are there any more masjids, brother? I'm a little tied up.
You mentioned Ocho Rios.
Ocho Rios. We also have on the island. We are going around now. We also have in Westmoreland. We mentioned Masjid Al Hussein. That was also built approximately the same time in terms of a purpose-built masjid in the 50s, and then purpose-built masjid in 1989. However, the beginnings of that masjid began with the Gulab family in 1892 and a man by the name of Imam Hussein. There is another masjid. There are other masjids. What am I leaving out? We have also the parish of, we spoke about Ocho Rios, Masjid Al-Hikmah. We spoke about the Islamic Education and Dawah Center, which used to be called Masjid Al-Basir at 17 Foster Avenue in Montego Bay. We have, of course, spoken about 24 Camp Road. It would be noteworthy at this time to say that there was another Jamaican, or two more Jamaicans, who graduated in the 90s and the early part of the 21st century. And as a matter of fact, four from this island. One was Sadiq Munsi in 1997 from the Islamic University of Medina, from the Department of Sharia, and then there was another graduate in 2004, Abid Munsi, in 2004, and then we have Umar Al-Jamaica, of course, very pronounced and renowned in his studies and his astuteness and his profundity to explain the Sunnah from the first three generations, the Salaf Saleh, by the name of Umar Al-Jamaica in 1998. And then we have Shahid Muhammad and Ibrahim Tijani in the class of 2009-2010. I hope they've graduated from the Kulliyat al-Sharia in 2009, the Shahid Muhammad at the beginning of 2010 or the end of 2009, and then Ibrahim Tijani from Kulliyat al-Da'wah wa Usuluddin. I pray that this information would be a basis for us to move forward. As far as contacts, the telephone number here at the Kingston Masjid is 9281771 with an 876 area code. And to get in touch with the brothers in Montego Bay, you can call Brother Ibrahim at 772-5783. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cause us to be united on that which is correct and of sound information, and may He grant us His mercy and shower His blessings upon us, and cause His mercy to spread amongst us, and that there is love to one another and a cause to call to La ilaha illallah with basira. May Allah confer His mercy upon us, a look of mercy, that is, a tongue which is truthful, a heart which is faithful, an intellect which is unerring, knowledge which is beneficial, and may He cause us to be in the company of the righteous in the hereafter. Any mistakes that I have made, may Allah forgive me, and may Allah strengthen us and grant us the Jannah. Ameen. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم وأستغفر الله والسلام عليكم.